I remember one day leaving a theater, just being like everyone was gushing about how wonderful it was, and like how tragic the disabled person died, and I'm just kind of like, really? Like, at what point do we get to live? I wanted work that spoke from our culture, that connected with other artists and other culture makers, that was intertextual, that was um, set in a series of legacies and traditions. I wanted work that was disabled.
Alice, I'm so excited you're here.
Whee! We did it, I think, or at least we haven't done it, but we're going to do it.
We're going to do it. And you know how much I wanted you here for our first season. You know that you were like my one of my
I'm,
first stories I found.
yeah,
So
yeah, we did it. And I
I
was
did it.
so happy that we could do it, like, because it took a while to make this connection, but
Yeah.
finally.
You've
Ah.
been busy with your production and everything. I want to hear all about that.
My name is Alice Shepherd. I am a multiracial Black woman, and today I have dyed copper, orange, pink, curly hair with the roots are beginning to show a little. Um, I have light coffee colored skin and white headphones that are like making my ears 6 times the size that they would usually be. I'm wearing a bright scarlet red sweater and on camera, but beneath the camera, what you can't see is that I am all dressed in my loose baggy trousers and I am seated in a manual wheelchair. Behind me is a window with narrow frames, and occasionally views of New York will appear in frame, and it is a cold, gray, rainy day in New York City. I'm excited to be here with Mia, and yeah, over to you.
Okay, my name is Mia Tate. I'm a white woman with dark brown hair that about medium length dark brown hair that wasn't agreeing with me, so I just pulled it back and tucked it into my burgundy jacket with gold buttons. Um, Below, I'm sitting at a desk, and below the desk, I have on jeans and one shoe because I like to tuck my left foot underneath me. And so I, for some reason, wear one shoe when I do these interviews. Behind me, I'm filming in a beautiful rug store. So I've got fabric that is actually dancing skirts, and I've got incredible furniture and filled in a building filled with stories to start my stories
Oh,
here, including the one I'm so excited about with Alice Shepherd.
hi Mia. It's good to
Uh,
connect. We did
It's
it.
so good to connect. Um, so Alice is our guest today, Alice Shepherd. She is a celebrated choreographer, dancer, writer, disability arts advocate. She excites, inspires, and just reimagines the conversation of movement, uh, body, conversation. She is um, a trailblazer, and I'm so honored to have her on the show so that we can get a little bit of this magic she puts out there.
Oh, thank you, Mia. It's a really wonderful introduction. I'm happy to be here, you know? It's like it's a moment of privilege to be able to share my story, but also to be able to connect with you and to share it with you. I'm excited by your work, and we're going to do something good today.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Thank you, Alice. We are going to do something good today. I'm just going to dive in. I want to know so many things about you. I have pages here.
Ah,
Um, okay, I'm going to start this off with the question I ask all of my guests. What does movement mean to you?
oh, are we talking about movement, like body, physical movement, emotional shifting movement?
Whatever you think.
The movement, because the movement is there. and and as Jerry always says, the movement is the movement. Okay, so let's hit it. You know, I think we don't pay attention very much to movement, like of our bodies, unless something is funky, you know? Like when you get out of bed in the morning, do you spend a lot of time noticing the way that you swing your leg and the way you put your foot on the floor? And do you think about your body? Um, yeah, do you think about your body when you do those kinds of things? Do you focus on like the artistry that is inherent in just transitioning from sitting to standing or moving through the space? Do you focus on your body when you do that? Because I do. Like I focus on my body a lot. Yeah, not all day, every day, but I focus on like what happens in my body in everyday states and what happens with my body on stage. And I'm really attentive to how I move. Like, even if I'm going down the street, sometimes I'm just really caught by the feeling of my wheels and my fingers as a way of understanding the world. Like literally, like it's a way of understanding how I'm grounded in the world, how the world moves around me, like dashing through the streets of New York, that's a thing. It's yeah, movement is a way of actually activating living and understanding how we live and move and sense the world.
Mm. Yeah. I love that. I too share that awareness of movement. I like to say I do the things to live in my body. You know, the spaces in between mean a lot to me, not just getting from point A to point B and feeling, presence is one of my big ones for dance. So, the awareness to feel the wind, on your skin or to hear the sound of New York. I'm in Idaho, so I get a lot of opportunity as far as being rooted in nature, different kind of ignites different things. And then my other balance is I love New York. So, but yes, that awareness of movement, I love that. It's so true. I mean, how much richer of an experience do we get to have?
I don't know. I mean, I think that's it. This is the primary thing. We only have one of these, right? And they do sense the world. And I think that's kind of important as a foundation for artistry. There's artistry in in understanding these bodies. I do have a spiritual practice of the body. It's just not associated with any kind of known form. And I think that's important. I really think that's
Yeah.
important. Like, that's how we breathe.
Yeah. Then you get to define it as you go along.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
can we go to the beginning? I would love to. I like to kind of get a feel for guests, how, where they grew up, because so much of that kind of plays into the people they become and the character and stories. So, where did you grow up?
I grew up in a small village in the United Kingdom in the Cotswolds. It was the village that my father was born in. He had a very strong musical career, played in London in the jazz clubs, and then when he had a family, he came back and settled in the village that he was born in. So I grew up there. There was like an Anglo-Norman church on the hill. The house we lived in used to have a thatched roof. I mean, if you think English village, I grew up there, really.
I can see it.
Um, oh, I can't. Well, it's not anymore, but
So
I did grow
far.
up there.
Yeah.
Um,
And as
yeah.
a father that was a musician, was the house filled with music? Were the arts part of your growing up?
Yeah. So my dad was a musician, and I like to tell stories about, the band coming back from a gig and crashing on the sofa and really not knowing who you'd wake up to in the house in the morning. Um, to my dad teaching, to me and my sisters practicing music all day, every day. I think we were horrible neighbors. I really think we were horrible neighbors. I think on our street, like, yeah, I would not want to live next to us or close to us. Um, but yeah, music was a very large part of my life. Every day we practiced. We had orchestras, or we had jazz band. We did gigs, musicals. Yeah, I was a working musician.
And when did you leave the village?
I left. Oh, I left the village to go to university.
Okay.
I had made a decision. Um, I'd made a decision not to become a musician, and and to study languages, and then it became medieval languages. And my dad said, who are you going to talk to? They're all dead. And I was like,
I love that
yeah,
you got your PhD in medieval studies. I have so many questions about that.
yeah, me too. But yeah, that's how I got started. Yeah, my life is a pattern of doing something really hard and fast and then making a decision, and doing something hard and fast and then making a decision. And so um, that's how I ended up dancing.
I want to get to that, but first, I just want to get inside why medieval studies?
I grew up, in the part of the UK that I grew up in. The medieval history is still present. There's the Roman baths over here, there's the Doomsday bit over here, there's people dig and find stuff. It's like the past isn't dead.
Yeah.
Um, and I was at university, and I I was unwell, and I had to catch up, and I had to catch up alone. And so I gave myself, they gave me a book, and I sat down with this Anglo-Saxon, this Old English, and I was like, okay, my assignment is to translate these things. And so I just sat down and I worked it out. And the more I worked it out, I realized I wasn't unlocking words, I was unlocking a world. And the world was beautiful. It was harsh. It was elegiac. It was epic. And so I worked on these translations, and I knew that that's what I wanted to do.
Would you say it was kind of another version of storytelling that's kind of followed you, it seems like, as a
Hmm.
storyline through your life?
Yeah, yeah. I've been really fascinated by, let's call it world building. Let's call it world building, right? A musical performance, even when I was a musical performance was never just about being on the stage doing the thing and leaving it. And so the work that I did as a professor really was about understanding the constructs of the world, like how they made a world, who belonged in it, who didn't belong in it, why that was, how they built bonds of relationship, and how they strengthened them. And yeah, that's how I wanted to understand that. You know?
I have in my notes here a lot kind of moving away from, the construct of society. So maybe I love how you understood it and then maybe lived a life not
Mm.
necessarily conforming to the constructs that are set up in front of us. Right?
Um, my mother would love you for saying that, because I am such a rules girl. I am
Oh,
such a rules girl. Like, I like to follow societal rules. Um, but so I follow all the little rules,
mhm.
and then I don't follow, like, there are certain little rules I don't follow. Like, I don't follow, like, you know what? You just opened something up for me. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. Like, when and where do I follow rules, and which rules do I follow? Like, I'm such a rules girl. But I don't want to be limited by the rules. So I don't follow like the basic rules of how you're supposed to behave, or sometimes how you're supposed to dress, um, but I did spend a lot of time learning the rules. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're at university and you've decided not to be a musician, but then didn't you become a musician before heading into dance? Do I have a bit of that timeline off?
No, my musical career's basically faded out.
Okay.
Especially then I didn't resume it after disability. I couldn't play anymore in the same way, so I didn't resume. But yeah, I it's almost like a sequential, like music, 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 university, 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 phew, dance. But of course,
Yeah.
they don't stop. They all kind of overlap and just keep going and just kind of, make all those things happen. So,
Yes. The
phew,
sum of all the parts.
yeah, yeah, it's been a lot to figure. It's been a lot. It's been a lot. Just
Mhm.
keeping like, yeah, keeping open, keeping
Mm,
open. Mm. Yeah, how do you keep open? Like how do you keep open to your
mm.
stories and the stand in this change? Like do you leave part of your life when you move on, or do you allow it to continue? Do you keep hold of threads and tendrils and things? Or do you make clean cuts?
There's some cuts, but I think it's all interwoven into my story. So I would say I keep open with gratitude to the parts of my story. Some of the ones I've put aside, but it's all feeds into the big, my personal big story.
Right? I get that. I get that. Yeah. I think I think it's important to have intentionality about that.
Hmm.
Like whichever way you go,
Yeah.
as long as as long as you're intentional in a way that um you know what you're choosing, and that gives you space to change your mind. Yeah. I used to call myself a brain on a stick. And it really wasn't, yeah, because what I knew about my body, when I was growing up was it had a brain. It
Mm.
played music and it had a brain. And particularly during the university years, um, it had a brain. But dance really taught me how to sense the world very, very differently. And so I'm very grateful for that.
So then you met Homer Avila.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, yeah.
Um, can you tell us that story?
I can. And I want to be really like, it's been over 20 years. I think it was like 20 years, uh, yeah, just over 20 years since the story started. And so I really want to be like careful how we tell the story, right? Because the story has impact, but it's really easy to romanticize the story and to make it good and to make, so I've spent a lot of time recently actually questioning the story and questioning my role in it and, even questioning what I know of him or knew of him, right? Because in the story, he features one way, but I don't actually know if in real life he was the person that features in the story. And so, there's this kind of like moment of reckoning with I have this amazing story, but like I didn't know this person. And then 20 years later, what I want to say about this story is actually really different from my experience of it. So can I try that out with you for the first
Yes,
time?
please.
Okay. Okay, here we're gonna go.
Yeah.
So, I became disabled and I really wasn't very good at it, right? Like I had ideas about like what disability might be, about like from like intellectual ideas from books and things that I was reading, but actually I wasn't very good at living in the new body. And I didn't have the awareness, I didn't have the techniques. So I go to this conference on disability studies on the university. And immediately then, like I'm surrounded by these disabled academics and activists and like people I've only read about. And all of them are looking at me and I'm just like, I'm such a beginner. Like I can't even manage to like open the door and like wheel my way through and like I am struggling. So Simi Linton takes me under her wing. Right? Simi Linton takes me under her wing. And she introduces me to Homer, who is the dancer. And I have no clue because I'm in my own like ableist self. Like I have no clue how a person with one leg is going to do a dance performance. Like I cannot even get my head around that. And that just kind of sucks because that's me in a really kind of like ableist way, not being able to understand what was even possible because I am stuck in these conventional understandings of my own body and going through and struggle and the world. So I'm stuck there. I just don't know this. Simi connects me to Homer, who asks me to read text in his dance performance. So he's dancing to Bill Viola, and it's the one who is, and I'm reading the one who, the one who, the one who. And afterwards, we gathered in the bar, and we were talking about disability aesthetics and culture and integrity and authenticity and wholeness and art, and because my mind had just been kind of like blown, like, blah, oh,
Yeah.
um, yeah, like. hmm, a couple of glasses of wine in. I drink red, um,
Nice.
but a couple of glasses of wine in. Um, and, we're talking about this. It's the end of the night, and a bunch of us are gathered. Jim Ferris, Kerry Sandal, and Homer, and a couple of others, don't remember. Um, and Homer says, I dare you to take a dance class, and he's like, we're talking about the impossibility of learning to dance. And he's like, I dare you to take a dance class. And that was the end of the evening. Um, then 6 weeks later, he was dead. And that had been his last performance. And I felt like I wanted to do that dare, like I wanted to do the thing. I was going to do it. So I started to look for dance classes. I started to learn how to dance. I wanted to learn how to dance. I wanted to honor that dare because I don't know why I wanted to honor that dare, but I did. Does that get us started?
Yeah, that gets it started. Where you were at, and then you took the dare. And
Oh
what?
no, no.
No?
Because it was really hard because I couldn't find people to teach me. Like I couldn't find people who like it's not like I rolled up and it's like 6 weeks later I was like I was going to find a dance class. Like I could not find a dance class that would a studio that would take me and teach me. Um, and it wasn't until I was out in the Bay and I saw a flyer for and I'd been to these classes and they were like you should just like wave your arms or you can do this and it wasn't until I'd seen a flyer for Access Dance Company that that I was able to actually get and like actually do take a class in dance. And yeah, and even then at that class, I completely sucked. I massively sucked. Like I couldn't get my own body right, and so I'm like I show up and I am on canes and I can barely like
Mm.
get this together. And I'm like, oh, I left my wheelchair in the car for the first half of the class, and then they were like, well, what? And then I don't make it through. And they're just like, why don't you get your chair out of the car and come back? And so, like, I get my chair out of the car, and now I'm like ready. And that's how I got started dancing. But even then, see, like, even then, my brain isn't quite ready to accept that this is how it can get done. This is how I'm going to do it. So yeah, that's how I got started.
Do you have a moment with either the old story or the new one or the future one, whatever, of that you met him exactly when you were supposed to meet him? Do you have any kind of does it feel like kismet to you as far as the path you emblazon now?
Right. So what made me take it seriously? I don't know, right? Like I don't like I have no really good way to say like why did I decide to do that? Except that my mind had been blown, except that I had met someone with who the conversation was just life-changing. And there are ways to describe this, like kismet, chance, fate, destiny,
Yeah.
or it just could have been like random cussedness, like I was going to take that dare. I don't really have good language for that. I don't like I question like what made me follow through.
But follow through you did, because I read
Uh,
that 2 years after that, you leave university? Is that and to
Yeah,
become a
I got
professional
tenure.
dancer?
Yeah, I got tenure and I quit.
Not such a rule follower there.
Yeah, no, not such a rule follower there. I mean, it's kind of sort of like I waited to get tenure. But yeah, no, I got tenure, I quit. I felt like I wanted to take this risk. But at that point, I was really in it. Like I was really in it. Um, the work with Access had been extraordinary, and
Mhm.
I was headed into an intensive. There was a 10-day intensive that Access was running in Seattle, and I was like, I wanted more than anything to join the company. I wanted more than anything to join the company, and I was just gonna like lay it down. I I was gonna go full out for it, and I did.
Mhm.
I really did. Yeah, I was so eager and so ambitious and so ready to live this life. Yeah.
Do you remember a moment where you talk about, the struggle of this new way of moving and then adding dance to it? Do you remember a moment where you went, "Ah, I got it." Like the flutter or the something. Do you remember like a specific time and place that it clicked before you move into starting your own company and all of this?
No. What I remember is lots of little ones. Right? Lots and lots of little ones. Like working to gain a skill to be able to do a move. I'm like, oh, like 4 months ago, I couldn't do that. Now, like I have the control of my chair to be able to like wake that like and now I can do this and like and then I was really glad to reconnect with performing because performing as a child and as a young adult, um, I used to enter these competitions and like win stuff and I used to play in these massive orchestras and small chamber groups, and I breathed that air of staginess. And staginess is amazing. Like
Mhm.
st on stage, like it's really true. People say it's like the way you can be the best human you are, the best version of yourself. It's really true. Like on stage, there's something that it's like I don't know. It it's something in the energy. That's just indescribable. And so being able to dance like that, amazing. I mm, fantastic.
I want to
Yeah.
read a quote of yours, if I may.
Oh,
Being on stage is sometimes surreal. For one brief evening, I am connected to several hundred people at once. We are in a conversation that frequently has no words. I cannot see them, but I can feel them. Sometimes I know we are breathing together.
right.
Made me think of that when you talked about being on stage. What spoke to me
Mm.
so beautifully about that quote is that feeling that you're breathing with the audience, that one.
It's true. Um, when a show is going well, it's not because I am necessarily like hitting all the high points of the moves. It's because the audience is there. And you know the audiences are there. Like, have you been in an audience where like you are so focused in and like you can sort of sense the people around you, but you are so focused like on the stage and what's happening and like you are barely it's like you begin to your body sinks and you begin to like sync with the performers and your body begins to feel the dance within it, and even though you're not moving, and like on the other end, I'm there with you. I can feel you when you're like that. I can feel you, and you being there, like I have the energy to do whatever. Like, but when you're not there, like as an audience member, when you are not there, I can tell that too. And I also know that nothing that I can do, like in a good show, I don't necessarily have to try hard. But in a show that's not going well, you can just keep trying and keep trying for the connection. And it sometimes it's just not there. It's just not there. But when it
Mhm.
is, mm,
That flow instead of trying to muscle it, right?
yeah.
You said earlier that you do things and kind of go for it. You're kind of a leaper, right? So now you've left academia and you are dancing, training, and then you start Kinetic Light. I'm fast forwarding, and this is, I'm going down the timeline a bit. You can interrupt or correct me. We're on a ride together, a little journey together. Kinetic Light. Um, do you remember where you were or what you felt when you decided you wanted to start your own company?
Yeah, I had been working as a freelance artist for around 4 years, patching it together as people do, which is really hard as a disabled artist back then, and even now because there aren't that many opportunities. Um, I had been working in the UK. I've gone back to work with Mark Brew, and anyway, I didn't decide to start a company, right? What I decided was I wanted to work with Michael Magg, and Michael and I started on this thing. I was like, we were in this conversation, and I was like, "Blup, blup, 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 blup," and this and this and this and this. And between August and December, like we hit, you know, there was a dance, there was a project being formed. And I was just like, Michael, this is not just you and me. This is not a solo. We need another dancer. And I'd met Laurel in blogging land way back in 2005, and Laurel had also invited me and introduced me to Douglas Scott from Full Radius Dance and enabled me to go down to work with the company there. And I knew that Laurel would be a person I wanted to work with. And so, yeah, so we didn't start a company. I started a project. I started a piece. Um, and I started a work of art. And the company kind of grew up around the art making. It's not like I decided I need to start a dance company. It's like I wanted to make these work and I wanted to make this and I was wanted to make that. And we had to have a name. So then there was a name. Uh, right? And then, then there was like there had to be some kind of like declaration so we could get a reply for grants. Yeah. So and then all of a sudden now there's a company. Um, so there's that. But I didn't know I didn't know that that was what was happening. And basically everything that um, has happened, is happening, has come from the desire to make work in a particular way, and to realize that goal first.
Yes. And what is that particular way?
Um, Shorthand, forest bias. That's the shorthand.
Forest
The
fires?
long, so for us bias.
Oh, okay, got it.
The longhand is a story of home
Mm,
and of belonging, of loneliness, um, and wanting to make work, wanting for my wanting what I didn't have. So I wanted to make something that I didn't have because I thought other people might want it too. Specifically, a lot of the work I was seeing at the time was either attempting to be non-political,
mm,
in which disability was incidental. It was a state of the body or mind of the performer, but it wasn't rooted in disability culture. Like it was just kind of like it didn't overall project the aesthetic, the organizing principles of the work. It was just, I would show up and do a dance, or I would show up and watch this theater production in which the actor happened to be disabled. Um, and Other work that I was seeing or reading was really focused on convincing non-disabled audiences of the the value of disabled life. It was about or it was about non-disabled understandings of disability, like the like the the medical experience, the tragedy narrative, or the overcoming narrative. Um, and so partly what I wanted to do was like, I remember one day leaving a theater just being like everyone was gushing about how wonderful it was and like how tragic the disabled person died. And I'm just kind of like, really? Like at what point do we get to live? Like who is making like and like this is feeding your bias and your narratives about disability. It's not feeding my world. It's not, you know. And so I wanted to make work that spoke. I wanted work for me. I wanted work that spoke from our culture, that connected with other artists and other culture makers, that was intertextual, that was um, set in a series of legacies and traditions. I wanted work that was disabled. And part of the problem here is that people understand disability mainly as a medical situation, not as a cultural or an aesthetic situation. And so a medical situation is one thing, but if disability is a force or an aesthetic or an organizing principle, like you've got a very different thing going on. And so I wanted work that was about home, you know, that the the yeah, that.
Well, I was sitting thinking about some stuff last night, and I had this thought that what you were teaching me in your latest New York Times article um, about your show Wired, what I was
Mm,
learning or realizing, it's not about inclusion. Um,
mm,
it's about um, it's about enhancement. Like when I if I can learn from another human their experience on life and I can share mine, then I don't live in my own little reality of my world. Like if I can learn from someone the sensuality of the sound of Velcro,
mhm,
then I can understand on a deeper level the human experience. And that only enhances my human experience. When I read in the piece you wrote for the New York Times so beautifully, this that I mean, you don't know what you don't know, and this and how you describe the moment on stage with the sound of Velcro, and it's the release, this releasing and this like intimate yes of moving towards someone, of surrendering this sexual energy towards someone. I would never have known that. And now I get
mm.
to have a richer experience when I hear the sound of Velcro.
I'm gonna like say yes, but also but also a yes and,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and I'm gonna ask you a more difficult question.
Okay.
So yes and I believe that 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 is enhancing of the human spirit and of the human connection, and that
Mhm.
something like that lasts and it just keeps going. But also, I also want to like the moment of moving the belt and unstrapping resonates differently within disabled culture for disabled people, right? The for those of us who have unstrapped lovers, or for those of us who unstrap ourselves to be lovers, or like for those of us who have struggled with the idea of wearing a seatbelt, for those of us who, do you know what I mean? The that is a different story. And so those stories are present within it as well. And I like my intent there was to access what Laurel and I spent a lot of time talking about was really like what does this belt do within disability culture? We know that the non-disabled world is going to have a whole set of reactions about it, but the intent was to reach something that would signify that would resonate within disability culture itself. So there are multiple levels of experience going on. And the one that I wanted to to focus on was really like what does it I wanted it to be to resonate in disability culture. I know that non-disabled people will have a reaction to it. Um, but the intent was to resonate within disability culture. Does that make sense? So here's my question to you.
Okay.
And this is something that I ask myself when I enter and encounter work that is not intended for me. If I go to see an art exhibition of work that emerges from a culture or subculture that I'm not part of, like then I have to ask myself, like, what are my responsibilities as a viewer of this work? What are my responsibilities as an experiencer of this work? And as an audience member, and for a show, like, what are my responsibilities? And so I don't know, like, how do you think about your responsibilities as someone who attends art performances or experiences art, someone who makes the art that you're making right now? Like, how do you think about those things?
My responsibility is kind of very twofold and different. I would say one of my ways I feel like my responsibility is to get out of the way,
Mm,
because there's so much I want to learn from others. And I have this image that I am only a pair of eyes. I let everything else dissolve so that I can just witness. So I think my responsibility is to witness beauty and brilliance and do what I can to bring it out into the world. And and then obviously the ongoing conversation of anything I'm living living in a way that is authentic and respectful,
mm,
taking
right?
responsibility, walking the walk. I did some stuff in my I did a leaping of my own and kind of blew up some stuff because I knew I couldn't have gotten here if I wasn't being honest, so I had to get to where I am, by doing some hard stuff myself. So I try to keep that in mind.
Thank you. It's real, right? It's real.
Yeah.
Like, um, I I don't think art is like just shoving a sandwich down your throat, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Not great art.
uh, Not great art, no. And but great art only becomes great because it meets with an audience member who who is able to be there. Like this is a two-way thing. I don't know that objectively a great piece of art is great until it has an audience. And I know a lot of people say that. So yeah, I think that our responsibilities are to do that. And my responsibility and the thing that I am interested in right now is creating in this way um, that speaks to a culture that is sensed, that is known to us, that is witnessed, that is held in community, to speak from it where I can, and to speak in it where I can, and to know where I belong, because I don't belong in all of it, and where I don't belong, and to make work that is in those spaces that I can be in. Yeah, yeah. That's my responsibility, I think. And
Mhm.
to make the best work I can. Yeah. Yeah. It's a biggie. It's a biggie. It's a
It
biggie.
is a biggie. It is you've torn off a big piece. But how rich. Yes, how I mean, how amazing. Like, what is there I know you're just getting off the show Wired, right? That was in August, is that right?
Oh, that was August of 2022. We're getting off. Yeah, we just got the next times. We just that came down in October. So, phew, yeah, I think it was transformative. I mean,
Yeah.
transformative. Just um, both in some ways wildly externally beautiful, but also the experience of dancing with Tati Haleva, a new artist to the company, and Kayla Hamilton, new work, new beings, new. ways to understand each other on stage. So really appreciating the performance, but also working with new designers, and Kate Freer and Carlos Jones Davila making projections, Annie Weekend making light, Josh Law making music. So just really under like a brand new world, brand new world. Yeah.
It must be so interesting and such connection, the people that you bring along with you or that you gather along the way as you guys all, as you create these new pieces.
Yeah, I would say you might see two or three people on stage.
Hmm.
Uh, there were four in the next times, but like over 30 people make the work,
Wow.
like from composers to poets to designers to yeah, like there's a lot going on that you don't see. Um, and so the the commute and then there's a production team, you know. So the community of the work is much larger than the performance. And like I think, people it's at at the moment at the point of performance, like it's the dancers who are most visible, but the show itself is the work of many hearts and minds,
Yeah.
and we could not do it without our administrative team.
Hmm.
The production team are in the space, the administrative team is often not, and so
Hmm.
it's really it's it's wonderful to accept a bouquet at the end, but it's also like we are just the most visible, the tip of the iceberg for the whole show, and that's an
Yeah.
incredible experience.
Yeah. I understand that. Um,
Yeah,
Tell me, what was the story of this project? Like, if I was like, tell me about this performance, what would you share with me?
I would share with the pandemic. It started with being about survival. When, of course, actually at a point in 2021, when survival was really like not clear. So I started thinking about survival, um, journeys to a planet that we didn't know. What did it mean this life? And connection, literally connection. Um, and this work has taken shape in many different ways, but it started with how do we connect with each other in the pandemic? And it went from there to this sort of meditation on loss, grief, memory, resilience, the future, the past. Um, there's a uh, arc back into the dance world, and in particular, looking at like some of the figures of Swan Lake. There's just it's a longer work. But yeah, it's I'm still processing. I, you know.
Yeah. And how amazing that you get a process. I mean, dance is just the great expression in my life and in the stories I've found, this great expression of all the things that we get to move through, like the isolation, the fear, the dark side, just as much as the celebration of life. It's like, to work through it with movement. I find it so exciting.
Yeah, one of the things Laurel brought to, like that's one of the many things Laurel brought to the Next Times is also consideration of materiality. Like it's one of the most proppy pieces ever that we've done. And start the work wearing these um, mylar creations, and we end the work in feathers. And the reason that I say that is because a lot of the considerations of times actually are when is the body visible, when is the body not visible, and so it becomes more and more stripped down throughout the work. So by the end, we aren't naked, but we are the most vulnerable in terms of or exposed. And maybe exposure doesn't mean vulnerability, but we are the most exposed by the end of the work than we were at the beginning when the body was completely covered. And so this is a process that is actually worked through with the audience about the body. Sometimes our bodies are in shadow, and they're huge. Sometimes our bodies are hidden in the mylar, and other times our bodies are just two humans sitting at the edge of the world in a bed of feathers. And the movement of that is, yeah, yeah.
Of exposed or vulnerability, when I see people have the courage to bring that to their art, it seems to speak to the audience in such a bigger way.
Yeah, I think as a performer, it is easy for me to be like smash, bash, and huge on stage, like
Yeah.
big movement. Um, I really enjoy the moments where it's like I want the audience to focus on my fingers and for like the curl of my fingers or the touch,
Yeah.
like the placing. Like I want that, and that is it's dreamy. It can be
Yeah.
dreamy.
It seems like that is, I see that in a lot of your photographs with Laurel, that it does
Mm.
feel very dreamy and very intimate, that kind of
Yeah.
connection and allowing the vulnerability in. So now that you're, processing and exhaling, what now?
It's the end of
Processing
the
and
year,
exhaling.
processing and exhaling. There's a lot of work to be done with stuff, when a show stops, stuff has to get cared for and maintained and cleaned and dusted and put away. And so there's that.
Mhm.
Um, there's going to be a lot of work in terms of, you know, building the resilience and the systems so that we can build the next show. We are in actually within the next 2 weeks we'll be announcing, so I can't quite do it yet, but in the next 2 weeks we'll be announcing some new collaborations and new partnerships, and then literally the process begins again of thinking before like getting too deep into it, of like building the next show. um,
But
oh yeah, oh
it's already
yeah,
been
oh
birthed in
yeah.
there.
Parts of it have, yeah, and there's something just kind of like, I used to say this about my writing. It's like I used to
Mhm.
dislike the process of writing because I was like, I've already had the idea. Like, why do I need to write it? Um, uh, and now I'm kind of like at the process of, oh, the ideas are coming, and there will be a show. There will be a show. There will be a show.
There will be
So,
a
yeah,
show. Oh, that's so
there will be a
exciting. I
show.
That's so exciting. Writing, I wanted to ask you about writing. That was one of my questions. You're a
Oh,
beautiful writer.
thank you.
Do you feel like a book or a deeper dive into writing is part of the picture for you?
I Funny you should say that. So, this year I wrote a lot of academic work, academic pieces. Like I wrote a piece with Susan Squire on disability in comics and Parkinson's, and I've written a couple of academic essays. I wrote a piece of poetry that will be published. I'm like, really? You're publishing my poetry? Hope it's okay because it's not
Fantastic.
poetry. But yeah, I don't think I'll write a book. I wrote an academic book. I don't think I want that to do that again. But um, well, maybe the next book will have some text. Mhm,
Ooh.
mhm.
Oh, I love when words are combined. Oh, that's
Yeah,
exciting. Congratulations
right.
on the poetry. Did that
Oh, thank you.
Is writing poetry new or something you've always
It
kept close?
Oh, it's really new.
Yes.
So squawk. I We'll see how it goes. But we'll see how it goes. But yeah, um, I think one of the ways. I just finished a huge essay yesterday, and sent it in, and the I feel like the that it set the foundation for the thinking for like what's next. And yeah, I'm really happy. I learned a lot from that process. I'm like, oh, right, this is how this works. Like, oh yeah, this really, yeah, So yeah, writing. Hmm.
Oh, I love that. To describe what I'm seeing right now, I see a person that is bubbling with ideas and moving her body in a way that shows that the process of creating is alive. How we describe ourselves, I have to describe how beautiful you are right now, and this
Yeah.
like
Oh,
physicality of how you're moving, talking about these ideas that are coming or this creation that's
oh,
at the surface.
thank you. So hopefully, can I invite you to come and like maybe just sit in the corner one day?
Please. I will sit in the corner any day you invite me. I would love that. I'd be honored.
Oh, that'll be fun. That'll be fun.
Yes, that'll be
Yeah.
fun. Um,
Okay.
well, I want to definitely ask a question I love to end interviews with. Um,
Oh.
so if we basically can just rise above the here and now, you and I, this keep going higher and higher, the eagle's eye view, the eagle's view above everything. What is a universal truth for you?
Human beings when they aren't, I said this the other day. I was just like, oh my God, it's actually true. When we aren't completely destroying the planet and each other, human beings are brilliant. You know? Like 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 humans, we're brilliant. We are amazing. Oh my gosh. Um, we are amazing. Like humans are truly incredible. We're also really gross, disgusting, horrible things. But when we're not those
Oh,
things,
I agree. I know. I'm constantly just like, wow, humans.
we're amazing.
Yes.
Humans.
Oh, so good.
Like, I was just stopped in my tracks. It's like we are absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I know. I have such a fondness. And here we are. And you are an exceptional one of them. I must say, you're an exceptional human. I love talking to you. And I'm so glad you made this work for us.
Oh, thank you for hanging for me. It took a while. Can I ask you, like, if you rose above now, what would your truth be?
Um, okay, let me think. My, mm, it changes, but I would say if I rose above all of it to the eagle's view, it would, I would see that we are all connected and remember that I've always known that.
Mm,
Once I got the hamster wheel out of the way and, the constructs out of the way,
mhm.
just I would remember uh, this human experience of connection as one.
Yeah. Oh, I hope we stay connected.
I hope we do too. I would love that. And I'm serious about
Yeah.
being in the corner, please.
All
Just
right.
I'll just be there. I would love to see the creating and to see you perform. It would mean a lot.
This can happen.
Okay. I come to
It's
New
just
York
not
all the
you.
time. I
Well, there
want
we
to
are.
be there more and more, so I'm there.
We're there. All right. This seems like this can be done pretty easily at
Yes.
some point. So
Yes.
let's just say um, we're connected
Okay.
and our paths will cross.
Yes. Yes. I love it.
Love it.
In the heart of Ketchum, Idaho, discover a place where art, culture, and compassion come together. At Davies Reed, every rug is unique and one of a kind, hand-woven by Afghan Turkmen artisans whose skills have been passed down through generations. Using high mountain hand-spun wool and natural dyes, each piece reflects a timeless tradition and is a living work of art. Founded over 40 years ago, Davies Reed evolved into a refugee weaving project and continues to give back. Through their nonprofit, Yurts to Universities, parts of each rug cell help send Turkmen girls to school, opening doors to education that would otherwise close after the 6th grade in Afghanistan. Come explore beauty with a story at Davies Reed in Ketchum, a destination for extraordinary rugs, handcrafted jewelry, furniture, art, and treasures from around the world. Davies Reed, where craftsmanship meets soul. Okay, are you ready to read this letter?
Oh, yeah, we have business already.
We have the business of the end of the podcast. I love these letters. I'm in awe of what people share.
Mm. hmm So this is a reflection from the the Why I Dance essay, and I've really been thinking about like why do I dance? Um, I was not supposed to be a dancer. I grew up playing music, dreaming of working in an orchestra. I pivoted at the last minute, studied languages in university, went to graduate school, became a professor, and never looked back at the arts. Until I attended a disability studies conference in 2004 and met disabled dancer Homer Avila. I watched him perform. We spoke after the show. He dared me to take a dance class, and after a glass of wine, I accepted the dare. At the time, I could not have guessed the effect his words would have on me. His words ignited in me a curiosity that became a fiery passion for dance. A short time later, Homer died, but I eventually took action on his dare and went to a dance class to honor him. 2 years later, I resigned from my job and began to train as a dancer. A decade later, I founded a disability arts company, Kinetic Light. And even now, 20 years after that day, people often ask why I dance. I tell them because of the way it feels, because of the pleasure. It's power and freedom are like nothing else I know. I dance because I can.
I love that. Power and freedom, like no other expression.
It's. Do you dance?
Do I dance? Yes.
Yeah,
I grew up dancing, and
I thought
dance is
so.
my first love. That's how, you know,
Yes.
I've come back full circle from the storytelling, filmmaking to come back
Mhm.
into dance because
Mhm.
for me, it's breath.
Mhm. Oh yeah, this is so cool.